Sit down. We're gonna hear the whole thing.
I was gonna let you stay.
Make him sit down and then stand.
Maybe sit down.
Are you ready? All right. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you please stand up and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving down, I need approval of the minutes of the October 26th regular board meeting.
I'll move. Second.
So moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or additions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Next, the bills, of course, were in your packet. Those total $1,329,797.03 this month. Need a motion to pay those as entered?
So moved.
So moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Next, approval of the monthly finance reports. These are still looking quite favorable at this time. Need a motion to accept the finance reports as they were included in your packet as well.
I'll move.
Second.
Matt. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Next, we are going to look for the approval of the early graduation request. Is there anything that needs to be added to those, Ms. Jones? No? Okay. And I take it all that is in order as we saw it presented?
Yes, as long as it passes their classes first semester, yes, they will all be
Okay.
graduating.
So this would be for the students listed in your packets.
Several of them.
Yeah.
I
With
read all the letters. They were really interesting to read all the,
The letters and comments?
yeah, I read every one of them today, so.
So, this, of course, is contingent on passing first semester classes, as Ms. Jones said, so. You're not quite out of the water yet, students, if you're listening, so.
I move.
I'll second.
Matt, Ellen? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
We had a question from the audience. The guy wanted to know how many.
22.
22.
22.
It's about the same as usual, I think. 18 to 20, is it?
There are a few more, I thought, than
There's a few.
usual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I remember I asked that question last time. We approved it.
Next, looking for approval of the Saline County Career Center program review that was in your packet as well. I thought that was very well written.
Very well done.
Yeah, I'll move.
Aaron moved, and second was that Brad?
Yep.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, it looks,
I-
where's Wilcoxon? There.
I just think
Yeah,
they're doing a great
hey.
Yeah.
job over there. I think
Yeah.
they need to be.
Commendations.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I told you beforehand, just to let everyone know at the meeting, I thought it was a wonderfully well-written report. A couple of things that he pointed out in his letter was the newness of a lot of the staff that are in that area, including himself, and the direction and drive that they're trying to turn the program around to. The nursing program is back on track as well with some items, and they're still able to have business over there at the Career Center as usual. So they were able to bring students back in starting on Friday, and are continuing to do that, and are going to be giving some space to the high school to do some things as well. So we appreciate that.
I looked at the building trades kids working out there, and I've talked to the auto mechanics instructor. I'm really pleased with what we're doing over there.
Any other comments? No? So we moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the report?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Approval of the Adult Community Education Program Review.
I read it, but
Is there anything you need to add to that, ma'am? All right. This is also an action item that I need to have a motion to accept.
I move.
I'll second. Trying to scroll back.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where I read that.
I don't know.
So, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say so by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. The approval of the library media program review. This is an action item as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll move.
Second.
Kind of caught up.
And that was moved and seconded by Matt. Is there any questions about the review?
It just seems like a lot of progress in the middle of kind of a hectic time, huh? Yeah. So,
That's for sure.
Is there anything else you need to add, Ms. Gaskell, to your report?
No, just that I think there was concern about lost items and, with the moving of buildings, I think those are kind of inflated. That just means that we have no idea where they are yet. So if there was concern, we're aware and we're working on it.
Thank you.
question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Next, there was the MSBA 2021C updates that were in your packet. That is just a first reading of those, so feel free to review. We will be adopting these at a later time. Next, we're going to move for the adoption of the regular agenda. With that, if you can add an 11.5 or something in here going next, we will have one public comment at that time that I've received. Other than that, the agenda is as printed, as advertised.
Yeah, so moved with the addition of that public comment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Mr. Lenz?
This is just an FYI. That's all I remember when I was here. I was just thinking about the tax thing. This is just a review of what actually happened and how close we were in this thing.
And why don't you state your name and,
Oh, I'm sorry.
And just a procedural question, we'll have the same 3-minute
I don't think it's
time
on,
limit?
was it?
yes.
Okay.
This is not.
It's on. He just has to adjust the gain when you start speaking into it.
Is it working now?
He'll be raising it as you start talking,
Okay.
from what I understand.
My name is Jack Lenz Jr.
okay.
I was here several times when we were talking about the tax increase. I don't think this is working.
It
but-
is.
Yes, sir.
It's slowly
Okay.
coming up.
And here, this is just the results, just FYI. I just thought it was kind of fun to see how close we'd come in that thing. The real estate taxes went from $15.54 to $22.63. Personal property taxes actually went down $46. There was a total increase of $658.17. The school taxes went from $9.13 to $13.18. The city taxes went from $3.34 to $4.80. Of the total tax increase of $658, the school got $406.68, the city got $145.55. That equals $552.23. So out of the $658.17 minus the $552.23, every other taxing entity got $105.94. So that was just a breakdown. We came pretty close those nights discussing that $58. Then I wanted to ask you a question. How many have heard of the expression, the dog days of summer?
Thank you.
How many of you have seen an iron lung? How many have you seen a person in an iron lung? It's not a very pretty sight. When I was
They're alive.
When I was 14 years old, and that was 1949, so you can figure out how old I am if you want to. I was in Galesburg, Illinois, visiting an aunt and uncle and cousins. And this was in August, and my aunt said to me, "You better leave." Why? She said, "They're going to lock the city down, and nobody goes in or out." Do you know why?
Polio. we were just absolutely petrified of polio as we are now of the pandemic. So it goes around and round. There's not many of us alive that still remember and went through that polio thing. You were absolutely scared to death of that polio. So I say to everybody, wear your mask, get your vaccinations. And I thank the school board very much for letting me spout off. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Brian. Never mind.
All right. Next, we're going to be moving to reports. We'll start with Dr. Lorenz.
It is long awaited, but the trailers are scheduled to start moving on Monday.
Wow.
Yes, so hopefully we'll get a couple of them off next week and move forward from there. I'm not going to hit all these. I'll just try to catch a couple of highlights on this sheet. But the elevator right here behind us at Spainhauer is in need of some upgrade, about as bad as Beaker. I'll get some prices for you and let everyone decide how we want to move forward on that. I'm also looking at quarterly elevator maintenance package price that I'll be getting to you shortly. We had a couple of violations on the elevator out here and at Spainhauer. We were able to address those to get us past the state certification. There are a couple of things that's grandfathered in, but that we're going to have to address sooner or later at both elevators. So the track project is nearly complete. I'm still working on filling in a couple of areas that have excuse me, settled from the rain that we had. A little bit of touch-up work on a couple spots on the track itself. We're also working to fix some leaks in the irrigation system so we can get the systems drained. We thought we had the leaks fixed over by the baseball softball field, and once we fixed the one set of leaks, another one came up, so we're waiting on a couple of parts for that before we can cover that, fill that, pressurize that back up and fill that back in. But we're most of the other fields are drained and ready for winterization. IFS has ordered parts for the new chiller at BMS, hoping to put that in the spring of 22. They also fired up the boilers at BMS and installed new pot feeder for chemicals to be added. It was working so well that we had to go back and tweak. We had done so many, the system was in such disrepair that we had to do a lot of finagling with a lot of different controls, a lot of different machines, and once the new system fired up, we were blasting everybody. So it's been a couple of weeks of trying to get it dialed back in and dialed up. So we're getting closer, I hope, Paula. Thanks. Paula was one of the rooms that was experiencing some heat blasts. Let's see. We added, we don't need that. IFS is also working on a control system to bring us district-wide into a operating system that we can control and not be relying on someone else to run controls for us. Still haven't gotten the bids that I'm looking for yet for the double doors at Beaker, but I'm still working on that. That's going to be a spring project anyway. You've noticed the progress on the nursing building out there. They're moving along nicely. The walk-in cooler freezer out here has been installed. It's up and running. The fiber at the high school and out here has been pushed into the buildings. They're finishing up some punch-down work on that. The electric sign is up and going at central office, and Daniel's been working to add content to that, so happy to see that start lighting up. The HVAC at Eastwood is continuing to move forward. They got several more rooms brought up online this past weekend, so there's just a few that are not left. I believe that's right. 2 left, Amy, is that right? 3, so we're getting close. And luckily, we're going to have 60 and sunny tomorrow, so they'll have it ready the last couple of rooms by the time you get back. So, launching a new maintenance ticketing system on December the 6th. The new HVAC unit's been installed out at the trailer out at MHS. I don't know if I mentioned this last month, but I'm getting bids for a new oven that double oven at Beaker. It's not good. We're experiencing a larger amount of bandwidth since we brought all these Chromebooks online, and we're looking at ways to address that. We're looking at upscaling our bandwidth, but we have a set capacity that our current machines that we have can handle. I think we can go from the 500 meg that we currently are up to 750 without too much trouble. We go up to gig, and then we're going to have to start talking about having to replace other internal equipment. So it's kind of a balancing act here as we bring more online, and we have to be ready for testing. So, and we're also still working on getting some bids and prices on vaping detectors. I think that's the majority. That's the majority of it. Questions?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Yes, sir.
Spainhauer, you said it's in need of upgrade. What specifically needs upgraded?
What need to be upgraded at Spain, however you were talking?
So the elevator is going to have to be addressed. So when we upgraded the elevator at Beaker, one of the things, when you put in a new system or you upgrade, you have to bring it up to code. You're not grandfathered anymore like we were in some of these other elevators. The fire alarm, for example, in the elevator at Beaker, it had to reach a live tone. We're able, because of the other two, but we're getting to a place in this one particular that we're going to have to address some upgrade issues. And when we upgrade, we'll have to do the same thing to make that live. Go to a live tone whenever they,
So
for
basically
inspection.
all that needs upgraded here is the elevator, is that correct?
Well, and the other thing that we're doing out here, this was the first building that we're working on bringing the fire alarms into a control system. So when we working with Johnson Control, when they brought the elevator at Beaker up to code, we put them on this building next to make the old part and the new part talk together and go out of the building. They have just this past week, imagine that, just this past week, they got me a bid for that, and I told them at the time back, it's been several months ago when we were working on the process, that we were going to move to our 3 big buildings first and then work our way from there. In regard to the fire alarms, when I first got here, Simplex was the company that did our fire alarm inspections, but Simplex has since sold out to Johnson Controls, and that's when I say Johnson Control, it's transferred since I've been here from one company to the next, but Johnson Control is the person who is responsible for our fire alarms, and they do an annual inspection, which was done in May. There was talk about how well they worked or didn't work in this recent fire. We have a meeting set up in the morning at 8:30 to speak with Johnson Control, go over the system and see what worked and what didn't work, and then move forward on what we want to do as far as since we're going to have to update the system, and as we upgrade, just like any of the other systems, we're going to bring those online. So I talked to the fire chief, and we talked about because this discussion has been going on for a while, but talked about an auto dialer system that they said they recently put in the library, I believe. So we're looking into the feasibility of the system out here was like around $4,000 to get everything speaking to and dialing in. So if you multiply that by the 12, 14 buildings that we have, we're probably looking 50-some thousand a year if we go that route. And I think the auto dialer, after talking to the police chief and a couple people at the fire department, it may be a viable solution. It's a ring in. It is a pre-recorded message, but on any kind of fire alarm, it automatically goes to the firehouse. So I will have that information.
I mean 911 center. I don't think the fire department has it no more where it rings into there. It'd have to dial straight into 911 center.
Yeah, and I think the auto dialer, wherever you set it up to go, that's where it would go. So that's one solution. The other is purchasing a company that basically monitors you, so you just pay a premium for to have that to a live body, and then they make the calls for you.
Well, doesn't
So
Night Watch do that?
Yes.
So who does our security and?
they don't do our fire alarms.
But they can.
When we start, if we go that route, we'll get bids from, if they had our, I asked them, when we did upgraded the elevator, and they said that the only thing that they monitored, they said for us, was the alarm system. And then when we disconnected the phone line over at Beaker, then we got an error message, and they said that, so they must have been monitoring our elevator, but they don't monitor, they haven't been brought on board to monitor the fire alarm, so.
Well, honestly, with fire alarms, it does make zero sense to have an internal one that doesn't notify outside sources. I mean, then you're relying on someone to passerby to call
Right.
in.
Yeah, that's-
And by then, your fire's already
You
rocked
bet.
and rolling.
That's the question I've had since I've come here, and that's the way they've always ran all buildings when I got here, and that's why I've been working towards changing that mindset, because
Does this give, if you bring this stuff online, does this give you any sort of deductions on your premiums insurance-wise?
I haven't
You
looked
have
into that, but
direct
I can.
lines? I mean, if you have direct lines into a
So
rescue source.
I can speak a little bit to that, just because I actually asked that question when we met with the insurance people last Friday. And there is supposed to be some premium give in there of some degree, not in the expense side, but there's a light reimbursement, like if you have extra airbags in your car, you know,
Okay.
that where your insurance would drop slightly. But it's going to be minimal as you look across the district of the amount of insurance we carry,
Okay.
from what I was told. But he
I was just
didn't
thinking
give
if
me
there was a
any figures.
$50,000 deduction, then that's a lot, you know?
Yeah. Wasn't
One
gonna-
could wish, right?
Wasn't going to be that much, because I did ask that question.
Okay, 25, I'll take it, but,
I'll take 5 right now.
right, anything works at this minute.
I'm going to try to put together, I don't know if I'll get it with everything else going on, if I'll get it in December, but right after the first of the year, so you can decide what direction you want me to go, whether we be auto dialer or whether we're purchasing contractuals. Now, some of there's part of the issue out here is there's going to be equipment, there's going to be, in some of these buildings, there's going to be stuff that's going to have to be upgraded. So the turnaround won't be instant, because everything else I'm ordering just takes, it's just been unbelievable. But that doesn't mean we can't start down that road once you tell me which way you want to go, whether it be a service or an auto dialer system.
Well, speaking from experience, it's a lot better to have it toned straight into 911. Anytime you have a third party like that, you're looking at time delay. Fire doubles every minute. So 2 to 3 minutes could make a world of
You bet.
difference on saving the building and the cost
Yeah.
of damages to that building. I would recommend finding someone that would notify the 911 so they can get the proper help coming that they need to deal with that situation.
And I will double check to make sure if we decide to go to an auto dialer system, that it can be dialed directly without going to fire first, go right to 911.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Terry.
Any other questions?
How many
Are we
elevators?
looking on the nursing building, is that a fall of 2022 completion timeline? Is that what we're still looking at?
I'm sorry.
I realize, I said, are we looking at the nursing building being able to be complete and ready for fall of 2022?
That's our original goal, yes.
If we
Work
can
on it
get
this
those-
work on it this whole school year,
Okay.
and then be able to move into it in the fall of 22.
Yeah, just wanted to still say that again, just for people that were curious about it.
We feel, I think we're on, well,
There's always going to be parts we're not going to be able to
yes,
get.
the
it seems
door,
like, in this sad
the
world
door, people have been waiting on at Beaker. I'm still waiting for the windows and doors who've been ordered even longer than that to arrive for the nursing building. So makes me wonder what's going on if those windows aren't out on a boat somewhere. But I can't seem to get anybody to get turnaround on that right now. Any other questions?
No, sir, thank you. Dr. Mayer?
Thank you. I wanted to first, of course, talk about our very, very unfortunate incident that we had with the fire at our high school. It was accidental. It was due to an electrical issue. It had been developing, from what I understand, and what Dr. Lorenz understands from the fire marshal and the others who were here, and there were many who were here. This has probably been developing over the years. And, go ahead, Wesley. And so saying that someone could have suspected it or someone could have predicted it, it just wasn't possible. There's no way that we could have known that that trouble was brewing, and absolutely there's no one to blame. It was just a matter of time before that long-standing problem issue came to the forefront. So when Dr. Lorenz and I, as he just spoke, presented a list of capital projects that needed to be addressed when he first got here. Here's the list of the things that we had talked about that needed to be addressed. And as you can see, we've done several of them. We have not been able to complete all of them, but the alarm system was one that was in this list. It was not the top priority. So now that we are moving to securing that alarm system, then we can look at this building, which has been the new area has the capacity for the alarm system to be dialed out. It does not, as Dr. Lorenz said, talk to the old part of the building, so that will be moving along. Now, I had put here that when we talk about school buildings, because we have 9, that it would be a cost of about $36,000. If we look at all our buildings, that is a different story. So what happened really in our fire is that the smoke and the soot from the fire was sucked up into the HVAC system and was dispersed over the entire building. Unfortunately, it was in the furthest away. That was some of the places that was the hardest hit. Still don't understand that. The gymnasium, the commons, and the kitchen are the areas that are separated with that brick wall, and those were not affected, so that they have been sealed off, and the kids then can go ahead, Wesley. The kids then can go ahead and use that area of the building. Unfortunately, until we have a clean air quality test and we get those results, we are not going to be able to allow students in that portion of the building. The insurance, I sat with, and Dr. Lorenz was with me, sat with the insurance and the ServPro individuals, so we had 2 different opinions. As you want to get a second opinion, we said that was absolutely critical that we have 2 opinions. But they did agree that we're looking at January 4th at the earliest to get into that building. There's just a lot of, if you were to walk into the building, you would say, this doesn't look so bad, until you go with the individuals who have I don't know what they look like a sponge to me, but it picks up the dust, picks up the soot, and you can see how much there really is in throughout the building. So it is going to take quite a cleaning effort, and I am looking at not being able to inhabit the building until after the first of the year.
But is that the entire building, activity wing and
The north.
just the north build?
This will be basically the carpet area up or the other.
Right.
The A building.
Yes.
We're going to continue to have basketball practice, basketball games. Some of the kids are going to come in for their music lessons, and Ms. Jones is going to tell us in a little bit how we're going to use the rest of that area, so that we do have some activities for our kids.
Okay.
So hopefully they'll be able to get a little bit of a sense of being together.
Hey, Dr. Mayor, I'd like to add to what you're saying, that above the north end of the high school, that whole area is open for return air. In fact, you can get on one side and look all the way across. There's no fire blocks, and it's made for return air. So when that smoke, that HVAC picked it up, it just circulated all through. I mean, there's no way you could have stopped it. So.
It was amazing to me, because when Christy and I got there in the middle of the night, we walked in, and I could tell from smelling it, my eyes were burning, et cetera, but I thought, well, this isn't so bad. But if you had been there, Ed, you could have told me, yeah, it's bad, because
Get out of the building.
it has ended up being
I physically went and
a
checked
challenge.
it. Yeah,
What?
I physically went and checked it. Yeah, I was there.
The ceiling tiles in all the affected areas are going to have to be replaced. Some of the walls down that hallway are going to have to be replaced, but all the ceiling tiles in the area and the ductwork that's up there above them will have to be cleaned and some replaced. It's going to be major. Ms. Jones, I asked her if she would talk some of my portion here about student and teacher expectations. She and her team have been working hard the last few days.
Thank you, ma'am. So we had started out with the expectation that students would be getting their work on Google Classroom and that they would be checking and that teachers could do meets as needed. We talked this morning with Desi, and we have changed that expectation now. My teachers will be reporting to the building on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in person in the Commons for us, and so that we can all be together. They will still be putting stuff on the Google Classroom, but they'll also be able to work with students as needed. So if a student is struggling or they need extra help, our staff will be in that area for students to be able to come in. And that was communicated out tonight with the parents, that they would start being in person. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, my staff will be allowed to do Google Meets from their home. The reason for that is the fact that I can't put all 50-some of my teachers in the cafeteria or in the Commons area and expect them to be able to carry on a Google Meet while everybody else is talking in the room. And so that will be allowed to do that. So students, the expectation is that they are on Google Meets during the time that their classes are. So teachers have to schedule that.
Well, when you say allowed, what you mean is required, right? They'll be required to be holding class.
Yes, they will be required.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. But they will be able to be in their home because I don't have the space at the school to be able to have them all going at the same time. Then also, we are looking at the EOCs for our graduating seniors from semester. We have some students that need to take some EOCs, and so we will be hosting those in the SEC. They're so gracious to let us use some space over there December the 13th through the 16th, so we'll make sure that we get that taken care of, that state requirement taken care of as well. Tomorrow morning, we are allowing students to come in the building in the Commons area. If they have, we had some kids have contacted us that said they have like winter coats in their lockers or they have winter coats in their gym lockers that they need that stuff, or they've left their Chromebooks or they've left it somewhere, and we will go get it for them and bring it out to them, okay, so that they can get whatever it is they need from the building. Or if we have a student that needs a Wi-Fi or a hotspot, we will be able to provide that for them at that time. And so that happens from 9 to 11 tomorrow. And then again, we will be providing that for them on Monday at a later time if students aren't going to be available tomorrow. Some of the other things that we've talked about is that students for dual credits courses through the college, there are times that they have to take tests that are required to be monitored and proctored in the building, and so we will do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Students will be allowed to be able to come in and take those at that time, required to do so because they have to be proctored by our teachers. So that's one of the things that we are accommodating. We will continue to do Back on Track in the evenings, and so the way that's going to look is that that'll be over at the SCC building as well after school, and we will end up having to go and pick up students who may need, that would normally have MPS transportation to the school in the morning. We will have to go get them, pick them up through with a van, bring them back for Back on Track, and then the buses will pick them up and run them at the evening like they normally would. And then Dr. Mayer touched on it, our band and orchestra students will be coming in to perform and practice during the morning's first and second hours. They will be bused to Marshall High School, and then they will be bused home after second hour if they usually get transportation. So Craig's crew has worked really well with us in trying to get that planned out. So there's still a lot of moving parts that we have to finish organizing, but that will be all in place for Monday morning, the 29th. Questions?
So this new schedule starts
On Monday,
the
29th, yes. We're finishing out this week.
Okay, so
Yes.
finishing out this week, status quo.
Yes.
The new, thou shalt be in virtual classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yes.
And teachers will be available Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the Commons. That starts on
The
the
29th,
29th.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And tomorrow is your last day before the break. Just to say that for all of you who need a break.
Yes, yes.
I can't tell you how impressed I am with the high school administrative team. I've always been impressed with them, but they have really stepped up this time and put the kids first and made plans to help those kids. So things are good at Marshall High School. Even though we may not be together totally all the time, things are still good. So as Christy mentioned, and as we had talked before, teachers, staff, and administrators are on contracted time from 7:30 to 3:15 in the afternoon. Our paras from the high school have been going out into the district to other buildings, helping. We need desperately help out in other buildings. So our paras, our long-term substitute teachers are out in the district putting their talents to good use. If there is a case of concern or cases of concern from students or parents, we would like for the administrators of both buildings to contact the teachers to make sure they're supported and accountable. This is if parents call a principal or if they call an assistant principal, they will tell them, of course, to talk to the teacher first. But if there is an issue, we want to make sure that our teachers feel supported while they're being held accountable also. So our food service company has also really stepped up for us. They are going to be providing free meals to students, continuing that, and that's a big help. There are some students who wouldn't have meals if it wasn't for our OPA people, and so I really do appreciate their efforts. Today we talked to Dr. Kerry Monsees, who is the Assistant Commissioner at DESE. He has offered us advice on attendance requirements, how we can set up a calendar, how we can go about providing for on-site learning and letting DESE know what's going on with us. His recommendations were to submit a request for a calendar waiver for the high school for in-person instructional hours. As you know, for our AMI, which is Alternative Method of Instruction, there are 36 hours built into the calendar. We're going to have more than 36 hours for the high school kids. So we are going to write DESE for a waiver. He said, I can't promise it, but I feel good about your chances of getting that waiver. This will cover the instructional hours until January the 5th. That's the day that we're planning on students returning to in-person learning. If we have to do something beyond that, we will, but we're not even thinking about that right now. So as Christy said, the end-of-course tests for students will be available this semester if they have to be graduated, and they will be available for the other kids during January. We do have a big recruiting and retention effort in our district, just like every district in the state of the nation does. But to recruit the very best candidates for our positions and to retain our very talented teachers, we are recommending that current and future employees be given credit on the salary schedule for all the years that they have been in service in a job that's related to their current or future position. What that means is teachers who have come here and have been given up to 10 years of service, we are recommending that we give those teachers whatever the number of years that they are bringing to us of former teaching service to apply to our salary schedule. Now, as you remember on the salary schedule, it ends after 10 years for a bachelor's with no college, after 15, so-and-so, then up masters to the right of the schedule ends at 30 years. We will not be adding steps onto the bottom of those, but we will be giving teachers credit for years that they have put into another district, if that's approved by the board. So I was asked how much this would cost, how many people this would involve, and how much it would cost. We have 23 teachers who will be able to apply for increased salary next year. That total is about $92,000. That's, of course, before any raises that we're thinking about, any other additions. But for right now, to give the the teachers, their former years of service, it would be about 92,000. There are 8 classified staff who, if they have their pay increase next year, it would be approximately 13,000. So we are moving ahead with that
That's,
with that effort, and if it is approved, that increase will be for next year, the 22-23 school year. The teachers and staff then, thank you. The teachers and staff who will need to complete an application and send to the central office showing the number of years, the place of employment, the description of the job, et cetera, for approval of the raise in their salary. I did want to just bring up to date the COVID numbers in the state. As you can see, we continue to keep our numbers, and we continue to have a decrease in our cases and our quarantines, that is up until today. I did get, okay, you can go ahead, Wesley. I did get notification today that we have 3 positives and 21 quarantine in the district, which is, I believe when I posted it last week, it was 6 and 5, I think. But as of November 19th, there were 6 positive cases and 5 quarantine, as I said. Today, there are 3 more positives and 21 more quarantines. In Saline County, these are the numbers from this morning. The cases in the last 5 days, the average is 5. In 14, the average is 5.2. And there has been a decrease in cases of almost 8%. And that is current as of today. I did want to just provide the information to the community that we do have a board election and board filing dates coming up. The filing dates are December 7th through the 28th, and the election day then is on December 5th. But we would like to encourage everyone who loves kids and wants to do the best for them to be a part of this team here. So that is all that I have.
April
Just
5th.
just to quickly clarify, there are going to be 3 open seats
Yes,
this year.
there are 3.
Yes, and the date is April 5th for the election, not December, but just to throw that out there for those listening.
The election is April 5th, right?
You just said December. You
Oh,
were on some of
well,
December.
don't believe what I say.
I just want to make sure people
Sorry,
listening heard the.
sorry.
Go vote in April like you normally would.
Talking before I'm thinking.
Yes.
Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have some additional reports. Of course, these were CTA, PDC, Social Services Director, Director of Teaching and Learning. Are there any questions for any of these groups? No?
I would just like to tell Ms. Jacoby, thank you for your presentations. They're easy for me to understand and follow along, and they're very thorough, and I appreciate them very much.
It was a little shorter this month. Good. Is that what happened? So, just for that joke, she has been very thorough since she's been in this position. Her papers, because I feel like they're papers, but her reports are about usually 15 pages or so. So I think she might have scaled that down just slightly this time for us.
some of the good teaching she's
It's
had
a
in the
little light reading, but it is very thorough, as Matt
very
said,
good
and
to
I
have
don't
that
have to ask any
information.
questions about what's going on in there, so I
And that's
appreciate that.
exactly how she acts in the office, just like that.
Ms. Wise, do you have anything you need to add to your report? No? All right. Grace? No? All right. Thank you all. Those will, of course, come out with the rest of the board minutes for everyone to review as well. So moving down to principal reports, we have the elementary principals here this evening who are going to grace us with a song and dance.
Oh,
Must be sweater night.
You did not get the memo.
Sweater.
Dr. Mary.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Run, Jenna, run.
Well, I would, but they're stains.
Probably, Amy, you probably are. Randy probably have a little harder time. Jenna could do it.
That's kind
Hi, guys. We are going to talk just for a few minutes about some incentives and some little initiatives and things that we are doing with the upper elementary schools here in Marshall. So we've got a lot of exciting things. The first thing we're going to talk about is our after-school program. I just wanted to talk about numbers just really quickly because this is very exciting, I think. We have 13 kindergartners and eight first graders. And then our second, third, and fourth students, we have 25 in each of those grades. So we have a lot of parents and citizens in the community that are very eager to get their students involved in this. We just don't have the manpower yet, but we are on our way there. There's some very exciting things going on in the buildings. So we have on Mondays an enrichment program, and we're doing a lot right now with coding. So we have the teachers that are there, we're doing code.org, which is something that's kind of new to me, but it's very neat to see these kids being involved in using their hands and their brains. So it's pretty exciting. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have the same group of students that are there for just ELA tutoring right now. We're hoping that we can implement math at some point, but right now we've got 90 minutes that's dedicated to their specific learning needs. So if Harry came and we have an assessment that we look on, and it will show exactly what Harry needs, exactly what Ed needs. So we can group these students. It's not just, oh, you're in fourth grade, you're struggling, so fourth graders go here. We're grouping all of the students based on their needs. So if these two gentlemen had a need that maybe their reading comprehension was lacking, then we could take those two students and get them to where they need to be. So it's very direct, very intentional, everything that we are doing with these students. So if you guys have any great ideas or anything that you guys can give to us, we are open and available. And if anyone in the community or anyone else wants to come and participate on Mondays for enrichment days, we have great opportunities for people in the community to come in and visit us.
Which building is that one?
We are at southeast comes to Benton, so we have both Brendy's building and my building is at Benton, and then we have Eastwood, and then we also have it here at Spainhauer for kindergarten and first grade. Any other questions on the after-school program? No. Good work.
You might need it because doesn't it go into our online system?
It goes
You
with the
might need
stream.
it.
Mhm.
Okay, so thank you. I'm going to piggyback off of a lot of what Ms. Godfrey said, because I'm going to do just a quick update on AlTime for upper elementary. I know we've talked a lot about AlTime in the past, but just wanted to let you know it's still going on. And much like our tutoring, it is very skill specific. It is not necessarily grade specific. So just going back to what she said, so students that need extra support with specific skills will go to classrooms that directly and explicitly address what they need. So second graders aren't necessarily going to second grade classrooms, so they are going to the classrooms that directly address what they need. So they're kind of traveling all over the building. Our AlTime groups last approximately 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week. We don't have AlTime on Wednesday because we do get out early, or for instance, homecoming or another 12:30 out. We are using our data to drive our instruction and still group kiddos. At the beginning of the year, we had some review skills going on until our assessments were finished, and then as soon as those were complete, we looked at data and then grouped kiddos and kind of grouped them accordingly. The groups in AlTime kind of consist of anything from phonemic awareness, letter and sounds, all the way to book clubs, independent reading. Mrs. Peel comes over and works with students. So we have a wide range of skills that are being addressed on both ends. Let's see, the rounds last approximately about 10 days. So give or take a day or two. The students are assessed on the last day. The teachers grade the assessments, and then we get together during our common planning time and we look at the data to regroup kids, and they either move along to the next skill, or if they didn't score well, they get 3 chances, and they will, if
they still are not doing well, we'll back them up to the pre-skill, just thinking that they need some extra support. So, I think other than that, unless you have any questions, teachers are also moving from group to group. I've also had a group, for instance, I've done anything from phonemic awareness. I'm now working with the independent readers. So as our needs change for our students, the teachers are also adjusting. So it's nice that we're moving students from one end of the progression to the other. So like, for instance, I might start with one group and I, 2 rounds later might be teaching some other skills.
Yeah.
So it's all very fluid.
So this sounds cool. And I'm always, anytime we're veering towards standards-based stuff, you've got my attention, because I love that sort of approach, right? Looking at actual student need and not just adhering to the box and grade level, right? So one of my questions, though, is, can you talk to me a little bit about the assessments that you're using to put students in these skill boxes? Because goodness knows, let me put it this way, I'm hoping it'll be pretty multimodal.
Yes, so initially when we form the groups and when we start AlTime, we have spring data, and then, like I said, we kind of do some review skills at the beginning of the year until we have fall data. So then we use like our DORA, which is our diagnostic online reading assessment. And also, we have our informal assessments as well. Once we've completed each round, the AlTime teacher or instructor will make up their own informal assessment that is directly related to what they're teaching. So for instance, if I'm teaching short vowels and that's exactly and directly what I've taught, I'm not going to be worried about spelling at that point. I want to know exactly, do they understand short vowels? And so the students have to score at least 90% or higher in order to move to the next skill. And most of the time it is a skill right after that. But for instance, they may have been gone or been ill, so they might have just had a hole for short vowels and they're going to move to something else. So I think most of ours are pretty informal, except initially, when we get the process
They're
going.
more of
So,
I would say more of a formative
Unless you all-
assessment, just based on, like a progress monitoring. Like she said, they have to score, most of them, I think, are around 10 points, and so they have to score 9 out of 10 on most of those.
But it sounds like we're doing a blend of,
Yes.
we're letting the pro do the pro's job, we're letting the teacher assess the situation, but we're also looking at some of the hard data from, DORA, from testing, right? So that you've got a blend of the two, right? That's nice. That's good.
We usually try to use 2 to 3 points of data because I think,
At least,
it's pretty scary to base decisions off of one piece of data.
Right.
You need to look at the whole child.
You're speaking to my fear, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to speak to our students who've been working, all of our students in our building, and I think across all the other elementary schools have been working on math fluency. And we've been using an online program called Reflex. And so it is based, the students work on it at their own pace. And we've been celebrating those successes monthly. And in our school, we have a large bulletin board. And looking back to last year, we kind of thought, well, let's try to, look at celebrating students as they progress along the way. So if they master up to 25%, we celebrate that, 50, 75, and 100. And then we have different rewards that we celebrate monthly for that progress. So that bulletin board, along with, we are tracking their progress in a data binder. And so students each month track their progress of where they are in addition, fluency, subtraction, multiplication, division. But that program is individualized, and it's very engaging for the students because it's kind of game-like as they proceed through the different levels with that. And so we started in October with that, and so we've had 2 monthly celebrations in our building to celebrate their math fluency. So, and then I was just going to share real quickly. It's kind of, I don't know, it's hard for me to hold. Yeah. So the students are data tracking their own progress for each month on Reflex, as well as some other areas they're doing is their pre and post tests in ELA. Each time they take an ELA assessment, and then as our fall DRA, and then we'll do like a progress monitoring mid-year, and then we'll take it again in the spring. And then we use the DRA to formulate where they are or determine where they are with their guided reading. And then on a monthly basis, the students are tracking their progress on their reading levels too. So this kind of, they're working towards their goals and tracking their progress as they move along the way. So this is something new that our building is doing this year. And then during AlTime, they also have a little folder that they keep track of where they are as far as their phonemic awareness, their phonics, and then they also keep their little progress monitoring, their formative assessments and that too. So that's the way they're tracking their own data.
Is there any sense of how, of whether that's making a difference for the children? Are they more engaged because they're tracking their own progress? Are they more?
I was gonna say, is it breed a natural competition almost, as well?
The feeling of that ownership that they are in charge of. It's not just my teacher saying, hey, you've got 60% left to go, keep going, you're at 40. Well, they get to see, okay, as I'm coloring it in, it's up to them to, where do I want to go now? It's an exciting thing, and they're very involved in it because, like Randy said, it's a gaming type thing, so they're trying to achieve, how do I get to that next level, and it's very engaging.
Okay.
But yeah, they're marking their own data book, and keeping them with themselves, and then traveling with them when they go to AlTime. And then I think, having that visual in the school too, because like at 25%, they get a little sweet treat, 50% they get an ice cream treat, 75% they get extra recess, and then ultimately at 100% they'll get a pizza. So it's something that they can continue to work on all year. But, some students may or may not get to that 100%, but we are able to celebrate their successes and where they are and along the way. So it's not something that they have to wait until the end of the school year. So,
I think it also helps with personal goal setting for the students and where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best case scenario, right? So I was curious as to whether you're actually seeing that. It sounds like you are. Cool. All right, great.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
Good job, elementary.
Thank you.
Moving along to old business.
Thank you, guys.
So the first part of old business that I'm going to talk about just briefly is the revision of the policy for public comment. This is still in the structure phase somewhat. We have probably about a 90% draft done. It does need to go through legal, through MSBA for us before we actually roll that out to you all, and we will be probably adopting that at the next meeting formally. We've kind of had some conversations and some input going back and forth over the last couple of weeks, so we really want to be more engaging as a board and allow there to be greater feedback. One of the things that we saw in most people's policies is that you can only speak on things on the agenda. Well, sometimes your concern isn't something that we're concerned about at that particular time or that night. So giving you the ability to contact us and to be able to ask to be put on the agenda to speak about the things that are on your mind or that are talking with you personally is something else that we want to really reach out and try to do. Not just what we're talking about that night. Of course, you're going to be welcome to speak about those items as well, but to speak about other items that are on your heart and have crossed your mind, or things that may be working just directly with you. It will be a longer policy than there was before because there's a lot of other moving parts to it. So just make sure you read it thoroughly whenever it comes back out. The time limit is going to be changed slightly, probably down from the old 5 minutes down to maybe 3, but there is avenues to be able to extend that through presidential acclamation or through board acclamation, of course, by a majority of vote. So don't think that just because it may say 3 minutes, that's all you've got. But we do want people to make sure that they're cognizant of our time as well as we want to be cognizant of yours. And hopefully there will be other people that want to speak so that we will be able to hear more people and more people's opinions in a shorter amount of time as well. So if there's anything anybody else wants to add on where they've seen that before, it is listed as an action item, so we will have to do something as far as tabling, moving, or straight adopting, which I don't believe that we're ready to do tonight, so.
Could the motion be, just a side point, would the motion be to approve your sending it on to legal for review, or would that be folded in as tabling it?
I would take that as tabling unless there is approval of everyone else on the document as it is presented at this particular time. So I believe probably everyone might need a little bit more feedback time. I just sent you all like the final copy again today. So I want to make sure everybody has a chance to review it, make sure their thoughts are wrapped around it correctly, and then we'll move it on to legal at that point.
I think we've already started to implement some of that tonight, Brian, as we already did earlier.
Yes.
And you've done a great job on this, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry for dropping the ball on it with you, but I think we ought to just table it, look at it again, and do the hard vote next meeting.
There has been a vote to table, or excuse me, a motion to table.
Yeah, I motioned. I thought Aaron there, now is just.
No, but I'll second it, Harry, as long as we take a moment, if anybody has comments, questions, thoughts.
Right.
Is that gonna move this on to
So,
legal?
so what I'm going to say is that I'll give us another week to kind of throw our thoughts back together, look at it.
We need legal to look at it, too.
Then it would,
Nice long holiday weekend, take your time to look through it, those kind of things. Send me back any kind of comments. I'll send some corrections back out if there's some things people want to change. And then we'll move it down to legal and we'll have a final copy for everybody to see by,
hopefully December.
yeah, I was going to say by about probably the 10th, 15th of December. Our meeting's a little earlier this month. 14th, so we'll have a final copy for the 14th of December.
Sure
Because I
you
know
will.
it's a lot earlier this year because of, the next month because of the holiday vacation, so. So, if there's any other discussion prior to voting to table? All those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Next, Dr. Mayer had given us some information on the awarding of previous years of service for the newly certified and for classified personnel. This was what was included in your slide, correct?
Yes, and this says new.
Yes. I just changed them to
certified
newly.
This will be for new hires and for our current employees.
And this would be in both certifications as of the certified and classified.
Correct.
So it would have a retro of what we're looking at of about 105,000 roughly from the figures that you showed us before. It looked like with 13, I think it was 13 and 92. So, and then of course going forward, it would be a salary expense for us, just bringing new people on board as we had prior discussed, so.
Right. And as always, with any salary question, we have to remember that once we add this to the salary schedule, it will be there.
Right.
Because I've never heard of a school district backing off of a salary
Right.
schedule.
How many other school districts have done that?
Not many. Ed wanted to know how many other school districts have done something like this.
Many.
Yeah, I kind of asked around too about that because I don't know why people would come here if they lose their years of service.
Yeah.
It used to be that our 10 years that we give was pretty typical.
Yeah,
But now, with the shortage, not just with teachers, but with staff,
yeah,
everyone is trying to be as competitive as possible.
yeah. It used to be just sort of de rigueur. You were lucky if you got any years.
Correct.
Yeah, that's kind of
Correct.
old school now, which
Correct.
thank goodness, right?
Absolutely.
People
And that was part
gotta,
of my contract
Right.
negotiation, and I said, no, not without the couple of years that I've got in. So, but
We do it, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Do our principals agree that this will help keep and retain and recruit? Is this-
I mean, it can't hurt, right?
They're nodding more money will always help
Right,
a
right.
situation, huh? Can't
I'll
hurt.
I'll move to approve
I'll
this.
second it.
Yeah, I got Ed on the second.
Is there further discussion on the point? No? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed or abstaining? All right. Remember, that is for next year. That will not be for next week or next month or next semester. So there's also going to be some paperwork that needs to be filed through central office. So for those of you sitting at home who said, I've got 16 years and I want to bring those other 6, make sure you
Perfect.
please bring it on in and fill out the correct paperwork so that we can credit you or credit it properly when it comes time to next year. So. Next, we are going to talk about an approval of a bid for a track mat. This is for the pole vault mat, correct?
On the mat, man.
Kelly or Miss Amanda, do you have anything else to add to the bids that we saw? Are you welcome to explain them even further, sir? And one thing before you go, I talked with Dr. Mayer. Right off the top, we are going to be changing the 5,000 to come from track and 6,250 to come from the district, or whatever those two numbers were. All right.
You won.
So, and if we can find some more pennies, I'd like to figure out a way to try to alleviate a little bit less of that. I know that you have a very small contingency. Fundraising is something that other groups do too for support, but we also do realize that it is a little bit of something that we need to be responsible for as a district as well, in that as well. So that can be an ongoing conversation with us moving forward. So did you all have that information, or did you need
Yeah,
a refresher on the?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe the total cost was 21,500 somewhere? 21,250.
Okay, and recommended bid from Richie, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Feels, okay.
It had I mean, reading through the bid, it was a lot more comprehensive than the other items were that were coming in at similar types of money. Even one that was even a couple of thousand higher, but didn't have quite the same life expectancy in my mind as far as the equipment, the way it was made, the extras that came with it, as far as the crossbars and some of the tie downs and those things.
Decreasing injury opportunity.
No, that's it. That's what we're talking.
Safer.
All
That
right.
was one of the most
So-
descriptive bids I've ever seen
Yeah.
as far as what you're getting, so. For
Kelly,
somebody that doesn't know
where's
anything
the
about
mats
track.
gonna be stored when not in use? Are they in the open air, or are they in one of them shed things?
I mean, there's multiple ways, ideally, we like to, find somewhere at the stadium. Some of the other schools, they've done multiple ways. Some schools actually like it better out, how they leave it out, and they put a winterized cover, which it comes with over it. It actually does better keeping
Leave it up.
animals out of it, rather than keeping it in a shed. They see better success that way, and the cover still, protects it. So we'll probably go there for now, unless we can fit it underneath the stadium somewhere.
Is it gonna be on concrete? It ain't gonna be on the
is
rock
on
and
concrete.
nasty? Okay.
I mean, it's on concrete if you leave it out.
You thought concrete.
It's on
Yeah,
concrete.
this would be a pole, it's a pole vault mat, and it would be on the platform, or the concrete platform that the pole vault's on. I assume you'd be leaving it on the field pretty much in place, so. Yes, ma'am.
It stays on the field during the season, and then it's stored in the shed underneath the stadium
Mhm.
pallet during the regular season. If we do get these new ones, I'm also going to, because I do have a little money in fundraising, we'll do some more, to make sure we can get heavy-duty tarpaing and wrap those. They will be treated like a precious newborn baby. They also make another option moving forward, like I was saying, a lot of places do leave them out. They make portable metal buildings, basically, they're low profile, they just roll them over them and lock them down for the duration of not use. It would be nice to be able to have them out when the weather is nice, but we're not necessarily in season. Pole vaulting is something that to get really good at requires a lot of work. So if we had them in the fall, if I had athletes, they could do some of them, that'd be great.
Amanda, does Beaker have pole vault for track?
They started coming over last year. I had.
They're coming to the high school?
They come to the high school for practice.
Last night, it was 4 or 5 boys and 2 girls.
I got you.
And they brought them over once or twice a week. Well, at first it's gonna be once a week. And then they, were having quite a bit of success at meets with it, so they started bringing them over 2 days a week. And, we have poles that are small enough, thankfully, but
I know that there, we had only 2 girls last year, but in the past, I really feel like the condition of the mats is a reason maybe why I don't have as many kids lately. I usually have at least 5 to 6 kids just, down there football and all the time. And that's like the lifetime of the mat is 20 years, so you take that.
Yeah, I think this one had a 13-year guarantee maybe or something on it.
13.
So,
Taking care of the last moment.
right, so.
That's going to be the key, is taking care of them and making sure that they're covered correctly, and if it does get ripped, that we fix it immediately and we don't leave it sit out. I'm 100% pro this, but I'm not pro storing it on a dirt floor at all. And I'm not a fan of the kids having to go in and drag these mats out when there are raccoons in them. And so our students are the ones that are moving them around. So if we could get something where it was in place and our students are not the ones that are having to drag it out of a varmint-infested area, then I think that we're better off that way. I would move that we accept the bid from Rich, and we support it, but I do not support the track team having to pay the district back over 5 years. I think that if we're going to offer a program that needs a mat, then kudos to them for being able to raise it. I respect the Booster Club for helping them. I'm excited that Kelly can help them out of that athletic department, but I think the district needs to step up, and if we pay for it now, then I don't know why we make the kids over 5 years pay for it back. I think there are other things that they need.
I was going to say, they could put that money into other.
Well, they
kinds of
haven't had
things.
uniforms in a while. They need a timing system. I mean, that program needs a lot, and we've given them a lot. I understand that, but, I mean, we're not asking
How much is that?
science kids to give back for beakers. We're not asking the library to pay us back for library books. This is another classroom that we need to support, in my opinion. So I would recommend that, I would make a motion that we pay for it and we don't ask them to pay it back over 5 years.
Second that. That's a good idea.
What other kind of fundraising do we expect from other?
So the initial, just to let everyone know, the initial money that we're talking about is $5,000 from M Club, $5,000 from the Booster Club, $6,250 from the school district itself, which left a $5,000 balance, which was supposed to be the track. Yes, we had, yeah, when I initially saw it, I
We don't
wanted
have that
to
many
pay
track
the bigger
meets.
portion.
They don't.
To start. So the motion has been made to find the other $5,000 in the budget, it sounds like, to pay for this mat.
I think that's what the motion is.
How is that comparable to what the kind of fundraising?
Well, there's nothing that really is comparable.
Okay.
There's not a $20,000 item that another sport needs to, I guess the most comparable thing would be maybe like a goal in soccer, and the soccer program would have to pay for a goal, I guess,
How much is
Not
that?
my knowledge.
How much is
Just in
that
terms
covered
of
thing you're
funds.
talking about?
It comes with it here.
Oh, it come with it?
Oh, you need a building?
Yeah, the things you talk.
Not the metal cover.
Not the metal building.
Sounds like a good idea,
Hard to
too.
answer that question, if that makes sense.
Kind of, yeah. And I'm also wondering about, in terms of just fundraising, how much do we expect from other, is this an unusual or an unusually large expense to expect from club fundraising, from team fundraising?
But the fundraising portion is 5,000.
Yeah.
It's not the 20, it is only
Yeah, to
5,000.
be clear.
5 years, programs usually raise that much money, but they use that in plenty of other ways as well. There's so many other avenues to spend that money.
And so there's the apples to oranges.
So then you're losing out on all of your other fundraising purchases that you would normally have, for your students, right? Because, through our budgets, we don't purchase team shirts and all like the team gear, those type of things, right? So those are a lot of things in like team bags and stuff, like all those things that
They don't even have
those
spots
teams
for
kind of feel that camaraderie value. That comes from the fundraising budget, and they wouldn't be able to have all those things if they did that.
Okay. How would it go over with other teams, other programs, other activities, if we do it this way, if we say we'll absorb that cost? Is there a chance that it looks unfair?
It's all an eye of the beholder.
That's true.
Very political
But I
answer.
think that we're doing it for, what's best for the kids, right? So what may be jealous of this program, they might be upset, right? But we're making a decision for kids, we're not making it for somebody else. It's to give kids opportunities to compete
Okay.
and do things, right? So if you look at it like that, I don't feel that there's any animosity. I'm sure some of you will not like it. I think that's their decision in the world. No, I don't foresee some issue with how to deal with all that.
Yeah, what you're saying is that shouldn't be a reason not to.
You going to be able to find $5,000?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure you want my real comment. I don't know what you want from me about comments.
So
And yes,
if we change, we're
62.5,
going to go from
yes.
5,000 to 10,000, or 11,025, or 11,250 from the
I think it
school.
would only be fair to look at all the other underfunded activities, because there are underfunded activities across the board. I think that would only be fair, and look at it as a percentage.
Who pays for track uniforms? One of the things Ellen said was track uniforms. Is that on your annual replacement budget, like basketball, football, or just whatever rotation it is?
We have uniform rotation.
Right. So if we absorb some of that extra money, then there might be a little bit more when you fundraise that you might want to go in a different direction or look at doing something, or maybe you might want to look at seeing about purchasing the,
When was the last time you got uniforms?
We got them because we use the same ones for cross-country. I'm trying to remember, what I did was replace ones, like, or fill out sizes with the current one.
So we really didn't get them.
And shorts. Talking about fundraising and other needs as far as, you need to start fundraising, you just desperately need a timing system. We are one of the few schools that we go to of this size, especially this size, that does not have either their own timing system in place or outsources it for that need to like TRC or something like that. Their track is a very expensive school. I just ordered 2 javelins and it's like $700.
all right. So we have a motion and a second to absorb the cost into the budget, it sounds like, and to allow you all to have your pennies to stay out that way.
I got a little bit more discussion.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, far be it from me to hold back $5,000 from the track team, right? But I also want us to be looking at funding other activities that are underfunded.
Absolutely.
Because of this, I mean, the outcome of this cannot just be, let's throw $5,000 at track. It should also be to take an honest, hard look at those other programs
Right.
and to get real with ourselves about how we are allocating funds elsewhere. So I will vote yes if I can hear that that we support having the superintendent look into that and deliver us some data in due course, right? I know it'll take time.
I think that's an awesome.
Can we get,
statement.
is that reasonable?
I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. I would be also interested in fundraising attempts by other groups. I realize your group is the smallest, so I don't want to say you only raise 500 because you only have 8 kids or a dozen kids, because that's different than having 60 kids in football. Or, having, I think, like 45 kids in basketball right now or so. I mean, I saw a lot of kids there, so
My
go
other
ahead.
question, is there any money in at Beaker for track that they're not, that they could put towards this since they use it? No? Okay, I'm just, there's another, just asking, I don't know what they have.
Every activity, sport, they all fundraise.
Sure.
We don't have one that doesn't do something, right? They all, it's all funded, right?
Right.
So,
But some programs are going to have real needs that are not being met.
you're correct.
Some programs might just have some
Right.
fun stuff that they fundraise for, and that's
Right.
great. Yay, good for them.
Right.
Right? And that's what we need to get real with ourselves about.
Right.
I have a feeling that the superintendent has some knowledge about
And
this.
I invited Mr. Callanan and Ms. Van Winkle to come to my office, because I have some, what I think are pretty good ideas for fundraising. We haven't been able to get those schedules, but I've looked around at other schools, and there are some activities that make some really good money that I would be happy to visit with them about.
recognize Van Winkle.
Oh, yes, ma'am, again?
No, different kind of garden.
One thing that we wanted to do, but with the condition of the track the last several years, was like have a mini camp for kids in the summer, similar to what football and soccer does, which is something we want to do moving forward. Miss Lance sent me a fundraising opportunity earlier in the year, that I have been talking to Viking about, with driveway decals possibly happening. We have an idea that hosting an inaugural community track meet to break in the new track in the spring.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Spring season's done, probably. I know we know the other open next week. I mean, we get to raise, we just didn't know this was going to be a cost.
Oh, I gotcha.
What
Okay.
was her comment?
Yeah, and so now you're in this catch-22 of you gotta have something to get something,
Right.
so. All right,
And very few kids I mean,
to fundraise with.
yeah, and, you know, the kids kind of ran away from the track, I think, honestly, Aaron, with the holes and things that were in it, and so now I think with the new track, they're running back to it. And so I think their numbers will go up, and so that will help fundraise and do some of those things too, I hope. I mean,
We'll see in the spring.
you know, shiny new things bring people, as we saw with the basketball team. Now we have how many in the gym? I mean, it has paid off for certain.
So I'm happy to vote accordingly, to vote in support of that, knowing that, like, maybe in a couple months, we'll
That's a
be
great
able to
idea.
hear from
I will.
the superintendent. Okay,
Okay.
so I call a question.
What if somebody else has a comment?
Well, then they can chime in.
Anybody else got
President.
anything else? No?
Call question.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. You get a mat. Have a good night. All right, we will be going down to talk a little bit about something probably a little less, or a little more painful, probably, dress codes at the middle school and the high school.
So Paul and I have met dress codes in my.
Oh, sure. Yes, ma'am, please.
It's there.
It's in the.
It's on the second shelf. They put it on the second shelf.
Okay.
Keepers, is that an Omni or a Uni, Mike? It probably would be better with an Omni, wouldn't it? Don't we have one laying around?
Are you green?
I'm green, it's on. I was just waiting for
Okay.
the discussion to stop. So Paul and I have met in regards to the dress code. We have checked around the area at other dress codes. Ours seems to be in some areas a little less strict than other districts around us. But to say that we have had time to put together a dress code, I'm going to tell you the answer is no, or to put together a proposal. We have worked on it. I have put together, we've got stuff from the high school staff, we've looked at other ones, and then the next step is to start putting kids together and having conversations with kids, and then ask a board member to join us in that process. At this point in time, bringing kids together, I'm not going to lie, is going to be kind of that moment of hold. Let me see what I've got going on and how I can work that into what we have at the high school and how I can get them there. So we are hoping to have one to you by the time our handbooks come around. So that would be January, February kind of timeframe to have one to present to the board for your approval and recommendations.
And I know that Matt had volunteered to join this committee. Still volunteering to join the committee?
Sure.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
We had talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and he was pretty passionate about, trying to work through that. So I'm glad that we're going to put students in there as well. When you hold people accountable to the levels, or when you help make those decisions, and it's easier to hold yourself and your peers accountable, to those when you have input. So I look forward to the process and the revisions.
Needs to hammer down.
And I realize the world kind of changed for you, like in the last week and a half, for
It has,
sure.
yes.
So,
Just something else.
all right. Moving on to new business, but just briefly before we go there, I just want to commend you, Ms. Jones, and your team. You've put together a lot of plans in the last 96 hours or so within your building. So I know that that's probably been a lot of sleepless time and a lot of extra computer and typing time. So we appreciate those. Sometimes salary means a lot of other things than we expected it to mean at the beginning of the week last Monday. So thank you. All right, moving on to the new business, practical nursing program tuition increase for 2022-2023. Mr. Wilcoxon, thank you.
Thanks, Christy. I appreciate that. So Ms. Teachins was planning on being here tonight, but her daughter has become ill, and so she's unable to be here, so I'll just kind of step in. Basically, the proposed increase for our tuition for our adult PN program, and you may have the figures in front of you, or Beth, you can, it was $121 a student. And the reason this came about is because of COVID and testing regulations within our adult nursing program. In order to offer testing in a remote environment, we have to have what's called a lockdown browser, which basically students log on, they're within the testing program, and that's all they have access to while they are there. So they sign in remotely, even on their computers, it locks it down so they can't go anywhere else and test. And so to absorb the cost of that, divided up from our 23 PN students, it resulted in an increase of $121 per school year. So that's the proposal for increase. Are there any other questions?
Can you say that again a little louder? I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 23, the whole thing or the cost?
Just the cost.
The cost. So divided up for the cost of the lockdown browser within our 23 PN students, it was a cost of $121 a student. So we proposed an increase of $121 to the tuition for our adult nursing program.
Will we have access to that lockdown browser at all times then? Or is that just the one?
As a program, yes.
And for accreditation for nursing programs across the country, they've been moving, well, at least the last 10 years, but at least the last 5 years, for all testing to be done online through a lockdown browser. And like I said, several states have already required that, and like I said, it's moving towards in our accreditation. So even if we're not in a time of COVID, that's a practice that we need to take and, and start using.
So that looked like roughly about $2,800 divided between those students, by the bad math I may have done quickly.
Yes, and there are different companies, but that's what we're looking at. That's about the median price. So,
Okay.
and that we could easily get that service, and it'd be for the year, each year.
Right. That explains the correlation between the funding numbers probably that were in your report so detailed on where that money comes from. So, so the ask is for an increase of $121 annually to the nursing program expense, correct?
For the tuition.
Or tuition, yes.
Yeah. And if you see in your budget, it's called a tech fee. Because
Okay.
it's-
All right.
If I remember right, our tuition for that program was
Pretty competitive.
pretty competitive
Yeah, very
before. I mean, that still keeps us
That's my question.
in line with,
Comparatively, and it's been a while since I looked at the numbers, but the last time I saw them compared to career centers around and programs around, we're on the lower end.
Yeah, I think we're like second to the bottom. Even with this is only 121, and even last year, before this raise, people were at least 500 more than us. So
Sure.
we'll look for that to change, I doubt if they're going down with prices.
yeah.
I remember that.
All right.
Especially technology fees.
So is there a motion to move?
I move. Accept
Second.
it.
Oh, that beat me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That is just a simple move. So December's meeting will be Tuesday, December 14th, prior to the vacation time. As Dr. Mayer talked about earlier, the board filing dates will be December 7th through December 28th. Thank you, Linda. I believe you're going to have to come in a day of vacation to make sure you're sitting there to catch those last-minute applications as they come in through the holiday. There will be 3 open seats. Some of this verbiage is incorrect. There will be 3 open seats, which will be for a 3 year term limit. If you're looking at the agenda, it may say Harry and Ed at 3 years, and then one position, Brad's at 2. Whenever someone comes onto the board through mid-season or mid-year or between votes, any way you want to look at it, as in Brad's case, then he will be on until the next election comes, and then that seat becomes vacant and is up for a new 3-year stint. So it doesn't restart anybody else's years or service at that time. So there'll be 3 open seats on the board again coming up this year. So, moving to the bid for demolition of the funeral home.
I think I crossed, I didn't, I
I'm
don't
sorry.
think I
Was there
crossed
something
up
else, Harry?
No, I haven't seen the bid, so
Oh,
I think
okay,
he's
I'm
going
sorry.
to answer my question before I
No,
ask.
I crossed up an out-of-town bidder from our regular board meeting on the Tuesday we were wanting to open bids today, and everyone else got that information, so I'm asking that you table this until the December meeting to give me a chance to put that together, to make sure, it's a little complex
table
between
till
the
December
haul off of the rubble and the backfill of the dirt and the tear down of the building, so I will have that, try to get that out in timely fashion so you can look it over with at least 2, maybe 3 bidders.
This has been properly moved and seconded by Harry and by Aaron. So all those in favor of tabling until the next meeting to make sure we give everyone fair competition on bidding and make sure everyone understands, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I move we
Abstaining?
move to adjourn session,
Second.
closed session. With.
There is a motion to go to closed session to discuss legal actions involving the district attorney and communications, hiring, terminating, disciplining, or promoting, personnel records, evaluations, and applications. And I do have just a little follow-up on the audit situation as well. So we'll be discussing that briefly as well.
Isn't that's not highlighted?
No, it's not highlighted. It was underneath.
I thought it was highlighted on the new one.
So, all right.
Well, okay, anyway, roll call.
On a roll call vote, Harry?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye. Aye.
Matt? Brett? Thank you. Thank you all for joining us this evening.